I like to say is a hurricane over real estate right now. We're in the Category 5 hurricane, and it's sort of a black cloud hovering over the entire industry until we get some relief or some understanding of what the Fed's going to do over the longer term.
One of the world's most successful and respected real estate investors is sounding the alarm about a hurricane brewing in the property market. Barry Sternlicht, Billionaire, co-founder, chairman, and CEO of Starwood Capital Group, oversees an investment fund with over $120 billion in assets under management. Starwood is one of the largest real estate firms in the world, and Sternlicht's position gives him a rare insider's view of what's really happening in the market. That's why it caught my attention when, in a recent interview, he warned about a Category 5 hurricane that's just months away from hitting the real estate market. Here's what he had to say. But first, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because my goal is to help you become a better investor by studying the world's greatest investors.
Talk about your other business, which is the non-lodging business. So you are one of the best known and one of the best real estate investors in our country. Right now, many people think the real estate market is going to be in trouble because high interest rates are making it more and more difficult for people to service their loans, and we're going to have a lot of defaults soon. What do you think about that observation?
Anything with a fixed income stream is worth less when rates rise. And the underlying fundamentals in most of the asset classes in real estate are okay right now in the United States. The apartment market, the industrial logistics market, the hotel markets, those are all in good shape. But there's no question that the Fed has reacted dramatically to try to slow the economy down quite late, obviously. And that has impacted real estate values. Yields on properties are moving up to reflect this higher interest rate. And the supply of credit to the industry is curtailed dramatically. So I like to say it's a hurricane over real estate right now. We're in the Category 5 hurricane, and it's sort of a black cloud hovering over the entire industry until we get some relief or some understanding of what the Fed's going to do over the longer term.
To truly understand what's happening in the real estate market, you first need to understand the relationship between real estate values and interest. Rates. Real estate is an asset that generates what's called a fixed income stream, a relatively predictable amount of cash every year. For example, if you own an office building and your tenant has a 10-year lease, you know exactly how much rent you'll collect over the next decade. These locked-in payments are the fixed income stream that real estate produces. Here's what Barry Sternlicht meant when he said that any asset with a fixed income stream decreases in value as interest rates rise. Imagine you own a small apartment building in your city. The property generates $100,000 in cash per year. That's your annual income, after covering expenses like maintenance, property taxes, management fees, and leasing costs. Let's assume this income increases by 5% each year as rents rise. At the end of 5 years, you plan to sell the apartment building and keep the profit from the sale. In commercial real estate, the value of a property is determined by what's known as the cap rate, short for capitalization rate. The cap rate represents the yield a property generates over 1 year, assuming it was purchased entirely with cash. The formula to calculate the value of a property is simple. Value equals net operating income divided by cap rates, LHE. Use a 5% cap rate in this example. To find out what the apartment building is worth today, we take the cash it's expected to generate over 5 years and discount it back to today's value using an interest rate. This concept is called the time value of money. The idea that money today is worth more than the same amount in the future. Using a 6% discount rate, the current value of the apartment building would be approximately $2.28 million. Now, let's see what happens if interest rates rise. If we increase the discount rate to 7%, the building's value drops to $2.18 million, a decline of around $100,000. But that's not all. When interest rates rise, investors also demand higher returns, meaning the cap rate increases to. If we raise the exit cap rate from 5% to 6%, the building's future sale price decreases, pulling the current value down further from $2.18 million to about $1.89 million. Now, let's go even further. If we push the discount rate up to 9% and the cap rate up to 8%, the property's value plummets to roughly $1.41 million. Notice something important. Nothing about the building's cash flow changed. The rent stayed the same, the expenses stayed the same, yet the value collapsed simply because interest rates rose. This is why interest rates have such a massive impact on real estate values, and while the fundamentals, the cash generated by these properties, are still holding up for now. According to Sternlicht, that likely won't last much longer as a recession looms.
Is because of the kind of things you see coming, we will go into a recession in the United States, in your view?
Yeah.
And any way to avoid it at this point, or not really?
It's interesting. One of my friends had a meeting with one of the governors recently, last week. And they're like, we hear all this noise about the real estate, but we don't see the issues. they're going to come, and there is going to be a serious credit contraction. The country, in any asset class, has not adjusted to that cost of capital yet, but it's coming. The economy will slow. You can see the numbers. CO confidence is down, consumer confidence is down, retail sales are down, service economy is wickedly strong. It feels like the last gasp before we actually settle into what should be what you'd expect to be. I hope it's a shallow recession. I hope he can pull that off.
Normally, when you increase interest rates, you decrease GDP growth and you increase unemployment. Your point is unemployment's not going up because the statistics aren't really covering the people who are really being laid off?
Unemployment isn't going up because structurally interest rates aren't affecting the labor market the way they would normally affect the labor market. You have the offset in construction from the infrastructure bill, and you have the service sector, which is still recovering the pandemic, which normally would be tilting over.
Real estate is what economists refer to as a commodity. Its price depends entirely on the supply and demand dynamics at any given time. Let's go back to our apartment building example. We already know that the building's value depends on the cash it generates. But what determines how much rent you, as the owner, can charge for each unit? It all comes down to the supply and demand for apartments in that particular market. Here's how it works. Picture a simple supply and demand graph. One line represents supply, the number of apartment units available in a certain area. The other line represents demand, the number of people looking to rent an apartment. The point where these two lines intersect represents the market price, or in this case, the monthly rent for apartments. When demand exceeds supply, that's what we call strong fundamentals for apartment owners. Over the past few years, the economy has been booming. Unemployment was low. Government stimulus programs were strong, and home prices skyrocketed. Many would-be homebuyers were priced out of the market and forced to continue renting. All of this pushed the demand for apartments higher, shifting our demand line to the right. As a result, rents climbed, boosting the cash flow apartment buildings generated and in turn, increasing their overall value. But just as quickly as things go up, they can go down. During a recession, demand for apartments can drop sharply. People lose their jobs and move back in with parents or relatives. Others get roommates to split rent and cut costs. Some tenants fall behind on payments and end up being evicted, a process that's expensive for landlords and reduces income from the property. A weaker economy puts downward pressure on demand, shifting the demand line to the left. At the same time, when the economy was strong, many investors rushed to build new apartment complexes. Depending on the region, it can take 12 to 24 months from the start of construction to when new units become available. That's exactly what's happening right now. Around 560,000 new apartment units are expected to hit the market in 2023, the highest number in 20 years. Most of these projects were started in 2021 and 2022, when economic forecasts looked much brighter. This surge in new supply pushes the supply line to the right, lowering the point where supply and demand intersect, meaning rents start to fall. While this example focuses on apartment buildings, Barry Sternlicht's biggest concerns aren't limited to residential properties. There are two key real estate sectors he's paying close attention to, and the first is office buildings. Here's Sternlicht explaining how remote work is set to devastate the office market.
The work from home phenomenon is a U.S. phenomenon. If you go to England or Germany, and we have some investments offshore, and I was just looking at, rents are up and vacancy rates in the top German property markets, Berlin, Frankfurt, Munich, Hamburg, are less than 5%. People are back in the office. You and I go to the Middle East, they're full. We have offices in Asia, they're full. So this is a U.S. situation. In the U.S., you have two markets. You have the really nice buildings that are ESG compliant, that are lovely, like the one we're sitting in. This place is buzzing, and they're back because it's a fun place to be. And if you're in a building with lots of cubicles and it's dark and there's no life and love, so nice buildings, even in a city as currently destitute as San Francisco from an office market perspective, the best buildings are still leased. And so you're going to see a bifurcation of the market in office. The nice buildings will stay rented, and my guess is at pretty good rates. And the B and C stuff is going to be maybe fields of grain or something. It'll be very pretty. We'll have all these little mid-block parks in New York City because there won't be anything else to do with those buildings. And nobody will carry them because there's no hope. Some of the cities that have issues on commuting, like New York or LA downtown, LA downtown, San Francisco, the CBD, that are difficult to commute to, that's where the pressure's so hard from workers saying, I don't want to drive into the city an hour and a half and drive home an hour and a half every day. But I also think a nice little recession will clear this, and you'll see people come back to the office. And I was in your town, take the Amazon HQ2, they're expecting people in those offices 4 days a week come the fall. So the other thing about office, David, is AI. AI is going to hit a couple of these industries that have been big users of office space.
The vast majority of office workers no longer want to be in the office 5 days a week. And this shift is having devastating effects on the office market. Companies simply don't need as much space as they once did. The situation has become so severe that many office buildings once filled with workers are now completely vacant, with no alternative but to be torn down. Take San Francisco as an example. As shown in this chart, vacancy rates are nearing 30%. That means nearly a third of all office space in the city is sitting completely empty. However, not all office buildings are being impacted equally. Office space is typically classified into 3 categories based on factors like a building's age, location, quality, and amenities. These are known as Class A, Class B, and Class C offices, with Class A being the best and Class C being the lowest quality. Demand for high quality Class A office space remains relatively strong. Companies requiring employees to return to the office want them to work in modern, comfortable environments that make the transition more appealing. The real problems are concentrated in the Class C office buildings. These properties are older, outdated, and located in less desirable areas. Their outlook is so grim that, in many cases, it's actually cheaper for owners to tear them down than to continue paying maintenance costs on an empty, unprofitable building. Another area of concern in the real estate market is single-family housing. Starwood Capital Group, the firm founded by Barry Sternlicht, owns over 3,200 single-family homes across the United States. It's fair to say Sternlicht is watching the housing market very closely.
Do you see a recession there because prices are going to come down at some point, or you don't see a recession in housing?
I think the housing market's had a very unusual situation where Powell's increase in rates has diminished supply, and people, I'm not sure we've ever had a situation where so many people have locked in their mortgage costs. So right now people are sticking in their house, which has diminished the supply of homes for sale. I wonder when rates come down, homes will be sold, like people will start, because the mortgage will no longer be a reason to hold on to the house, and whether that will offset will probably be an increase in supply as the builders resume a more normal cycle. So maybe the housing market just stagnates for a while, but over time it's headed up.
Housing affordability in the United States has plunged to near historically low levels. This chart from Goldman Sachs shows the U.S. Home Affordability Index over the past 25 years. The lower the number, the less affordable it is for the average American to buy a home. Metrics like this are a big reason why many experts believe the U.S. housing market may be in a bubble. Home affordability is low for 2 main reasons. The first is obvious. Home prices have skyrocketed across the country. In June of this year, the median sale price of a home in the U.S. hit $416,000, compared to $315,000 in June 2018, but rising home prices are only part of the story. The even bigger factor making homeownership unaffordable for many Americans is the sharp rise in interest rates. At the start of 2021, the average interest rate on a standard 30-year fixed-rate mortgage was 2.65%. Since then, that rate has surged to as high as 7%. This dramatic increase has made it much more expensive to buy a home with a mortgage. Here's what that looks like. A $400,000, 30-year mortgage with a 2% interest rate would have a monthly payment of $1,478. But if you keep everything the same and raise the interest rate to 7%, the monthly payment skyrockets to $2,661. That's an 80% increase in the monthly payment, even though the loan amount stayed exactly the same. Now, based on what we've discussed so far, you might expect these higher interest rates to cause home prices to crash. However, that hasn't happened. Why? Because many homeowners are suffering from what's known as golden handcuffs. People who bought their homes when interest rates were low are reluctant to sell. Since buying a new house would mean losing their low-rate mortgage, this has kept the supply of homes for sale artificially low. Going back to our earlier supply and demand example, when supply decreases, prices tend to rise further, even when demand weakens. So, in summary, only time will tell what happens next in the U.S. real estate market. But according to Barry Sternlicht, the next 12 to 18 months could be very challenging for many people. There may be a silver lining, though. Sternlicht often says, survive till 2025. In other words, if you can weather the storm through this difficult period, there could be great opportunities waiting on the other side of this economic hurricane. So, there you have it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, because my goal is to help you become a better investor by studying the world's greatest investors. Talk to you again soon.